All right, guys, welcome. Welcome to Products That Count. So excited for you guys to be here. Second event. Woo! All right. Woo! How many here were? How many of you guys came to the last event last month? Not bad, not bad. Awesome. How many of you have heard of Products That Count? Well, sorry, before this event. My bad. I walked right into that. Before this event, how many of you have heard about Products That Count before? Okay, makes sense. So let me talk a little bit about Products That Count. So I'm Andrea Chesley. I head up the New York City chapter of Products That Count. Products That Count is about 17,000 now, community of product managers, entrepreneurs, innovators. And what we are is really just, again, a wealth of programs for product managers and thought leaders, etc. We have events like these, so speaker series. We also have a lot of rich content, so if you haven't signed up for the newsletter, please do. We also have a wonderful podcast, so we have great people that we interview by Essie, who's our founder. And just, again, the best thing for us here is, again, I'm going to mention again the speaker series because it provides you guys with not just the wonderful speakers that we have, high caliber, but also a chance to network and talk to like-minded people like yourselves. So that's Products That Count. Before I introduce our speaker for tonight, who I'm very, very excited about, I would like to thank Digitalocean, as always, who just hosting us in this beautiful space and also providing the very cute sandwiches. Everybody's been told that the sandwiches we described as cute and wonderful. Again, thank you so much, Digitalocean. I also want to introduce their head of product, which is Shivan Ramji, to say a few words and what's going on at Digitalocean right now.
Thank you. Welcome. How's everybody doing today? Where's the New York energy? Come on. There we go. There we go. All right. Well, thank you for coming to a beautiful space. We are located in this building. We're very fortunate to have this space. And we're also very excited and happy to host Products That Count. This is the second event. And just to build on what Andrea said, I've been in the product community here for a while, for many, many years, and never found a meetup that really made sense for product people, especially if you're a growing community. And I think Products That Count is doing something really interesting. And so I hope many of you come back if you are building careers in product management. And just a little bit, and just wanted to share a little bit about what we do at DigitalOcean. We're essentially a simple platform to enable developers build great software in the cloud. We just hit 1 million customers recently, and so thank you. And that means that the team is growing. So we're hiring in product management roles, in product design, and engineering roles too. So if any of you are interested in learning more, there are some members of our product design team there in the DigitalOcean hoodies and t-shirts. If you want to talk about product management, feel free to come talk to me whenever we have a break. And enjoy a great speaker. Thanks.
So our speaker for tonight is Nir Eyal. So if you guys have not yet read his book, Hooked, you should. As product managers, we're always trying to strive to build that super sticky, super engaging, habit-forming product. And personally, just having read Nir's book, definitely very inspiring. My entire team is actually reading this book right now. So again, that just is a testament to how inspiring this is. Nir is also an educator and an entrepreneur. But again, like I said, read his book, absolutely amazing. And we're super, super excited to have him speak tonight. Nir, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm super excited to be here today because up until recently when I was in New York, I was here as a visitor. Now I'm officially a resident. I'm really in New York now. Thank you. I left Silicon Valley. I lived in Silicon Valley for the past 11 years, and I used to live in Manhattan, and then I had to come back because I missed it. My wife missed it. We're raising our kid here, so we are really excited to be part of the tech scene here in New York. It's so awesome to see how vibrant it is. When we left in 2006, just starting to get started. This is when Facebook first was getting going, and there wasn't really much of a tech scene here, and now it's just so awesome to see so many people in this community. So with that, let's get started. Let's talk about. No, doesn't work. Oh, there we go.
Yes.
Aha. Let's talk about habits. So if there's one thing that we've all seen over the past several years is that these devices that we carry around with us, a little bit louder. Okay, let me do that. How about that now? Is that better? A little bit better? A little bit? Okay, I'll try and project. So if there's one thing we've seen is that these devices that we all carry around with us, they have a profound impact on our day-to-day lives, on our day-to-day behaviors. And so what I've tried to do over the past several years is to understand what it is about these companies that allow these products that at first start as toys, as nice to haves, as these products that everybody dismissed when you first saw them. What makes these products things that within the span of a few short years, maybe 5 to 10 years, are used by hundreds of millions, if not billions of people, and are making these companies hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. So when I talk about these kind of companies, these companies that were easily dismissed at first, who comes to mind? What kind of companies pop to mind? Think of the last 5 to 10 years. Who comes to mind? Pinterest, great example. They're growing like crazy. Who else? Facebook, of course. Facebook is usually the one or two companies first mentioned. This $500 billion behemoth. The first time you saw Facebook, did you really think it would be as massive as it is today? Touching 1 in 7 people on the face of the earth and growing every single day. Unbelievable. Who else? Slack, the fastest growing enterprise company in history. Right? Who else? Twitter, sure, yeah. Maybe Snapchat. There's lots of other companies. Instagram, I think you could put that category. WhatsApp. Lots of these companies have somehow come out of nowhere. All of them easily dismissed at first, and yet have had such a profound global impact. How do they do it? And so that was my key question. So what I wanted to understand was the patterns behind how these companies change consumer behavior so profoundly and so quickly, so that all of us, no matter what product we're working on, can learn from these design patterns and integrate those design patterns into our products as well. That's my goal behind my research. Now, I compiled what I learned inside this book, How to Build Habit-Forming Products. If you haven't read the book, I recommend it. It costs $14 on Amazon. If you don't have $14, that's fine. I can tell you where to go get it for free online. Go pirate it somewhere. I don't care, right? I already got my advance. I just want you to read it. So we're not going to be able to cover everything in the book, obviously. There's a lot more examples, a lot more research that we're going to have time for today. But I want to give you kind of a high-level overview of the 3 years of research I did into how these products change our day-to-day habits. Now, the book came out of a class that I taught at the design school at Stanford, and I do a lot of corporate workshops and consulting around this subject matter as well. So let's dive right in with the definition of a habit. When we use this term, habit, what do we mean? Now, so the definition of a habit is a behavior done with little or no conscious thought. It's about half of what you do every single day is done purely out of habit. These behaviors done with little or no conscious thought. And I believe that we are on the precipice of an age where we can use these habits for good, where we can help people live happier, healthier, more productive, more connected lives by using these habits for good. You know, I don't teach and consult to the gaming companies and Facebook and Twitter. They don't need my help, right? They already know these techniques. My goal is to take those techniques that have been proven to have such a profound impact on people's lives and disseminate these methods so that all of us, whether you're working on an app to help people exercise more or save money or be more productive at work or stay connected with each other, we can use these habits for good. And that's really why I do the work that I do. So let's dive in. What I've found in my research is that all of these products that we talked about, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Slack, WhatsApp, all of these products fundamentally in their core have what's called a hook in the user experience. It's a key part of the user experience. Now, a hook is defined as an experience to connect the user's problem with the company's product, with the solution, with enough frequency to form a habit. Okay? Connecting the consumer's problem, the user's problem, with the company's product with enough frequency to form a habit. Now, this word frequency is a really big deal because what we find is that there must be sufficient frequency or there is no chance of changing a consumer habit. Okay? The more frequently a person engages with a product, the more likely they are to change that consumer habit. So when you think about the habit-forming potential of these devices, if you think about it, how often do people check the products that we talked about earlier? Slack, Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook. How often do people check these products? All day, right? They're intraday habits. The stats are telling us that people check their home screen on their phone on average 150 times per day. So super high habit-forming potential, and we're all carrying around these devices in our pockets. The more frequently we use a product, the more likely we are to change consumer behavior. Now, the second thing we know from good research about habit design is that there is a precipitous drop-off in the likelihood that you will be able to change a consumer habit if the behavior does not occur within a week's time or less. Okay? It's a very important thing to remember. If you are designing a product or service that requires a habit, you have to get the user to do that key behavior within a week's time or less. Very, very difficult to change a consumer habit if the behavior does not occur at least within a week's time or less. There are some ways to do that. We can also bolt on habit-forming behaviors onto products that don't occur frequently enough, but that's a really, really important baseline to set, that you have to have this product be used enough within a week's time or less. Now we can talk about what do you do if you have a product that is not used that frequently. For example, let's say your product is insurance. Okay? You know, Geico, when you buy your insurance, you don't use Geico insurance once a week. Right? You buy it once. You don't use insurance for your car, for your apartment, unless something terrible happens. So that will never be a habit-forming product. Now, if somebody wants later on, when we do the Q&A, I'm happy to talk about what do you do if you have a product that just is not used with that kind of frequency. We can talk about that. There's some techniques for what you do. But for the remainder of the presentation, let's focus on these kind of products that require, where the business model necessitates using the product within a week's time or less. If you think about it, every one of the products we just talked about, Facebook, Twitter, Slack, Instagram, every single one of those products requires a habit or they go out of business. It is an existential threat to these companies if you lose your habit. Why? Because Facebook can't afford to spend money on advertising to get you to come back. You have to trigger yourself to come back to these products or they go out of business. Okay? The business model requires it. And it's not that every business has to be habit-forming. Let me be very clear. Lots of businesses can make money, can do very good things for their customers, for their stakeholders, for their employees, without forming a habit. It's just that every company that needs a habit has to have a hook. Okay? So let's dive into what are the key components of a hook. A hook has 4 basic parts: a trigger, an action, a reward, and finally an investment. So I'm going to walk you through these very quickly, kind of give you the 300,000-foot view. I'm sorry, the 30,000-foot view. Added 1 0 too many for some reason. So that you can kind of get a basic understanding of what these hooks look like. So let's dive into triggers. Triggers are things that tell the user what to do next, and there are 2 types of triggers. First are the external triggers. Now, these are the kind of triggers that you know and love. For those of you who build products every day, like I used to at my last 2 companies, triggers are what tell the user the next action to take. Click here, buy now, play this. Some piece of information is inside the trigger to tell the user what to do. Okay? We all know and love these kind of external triggers. We see them every day as consumers. This is our craft as product designers. But what product people don't think about enough, and what turns out to be absolutely critical to forming these long-term habits, is creating an association with what's called an internal trigger. An internal trigger is something that tells the user what to do next, but that information for what to do is stored as a memory or an association inside the user's brain. So what we do when we're in a particular situation, partaking in a routine in a certain place, around certain people, and most frequently when we experience certain emotions, tells us what to do next. with little or no conscious thought. Now, the most frequent internal triggers are these emotions, but not just any emotion. They are specifically negative emotions. Negative emotions. What we do when we're feeling lost or bored or indecisive or fatigued or lonely, what we do when we experience these negative emotions prompts us to action, prompts us to look for our devices because our devices provide relief. Listen, there is only one reason that you use any product or service. Any product or service. You know what that one reason is? To modulate your mood. That's it. To make you feel something different. Everything we use commercially is used to make us feel something different. Okay? Don't believe me? Let me tell you about a study that was published a few years ago that really illustrates this point. We know that people suffering from depression check email more. I just saw 3 people put away their cell phones. What's going on there? Why do people suffering from depression check email more? What's going on here? Well, it turns out that people suffering from depression experience what psychologists call negative valence states. They feel down more often than the rest of the population. What are they doing to boost their mood, to get out of that negative valence state? Guess what they do? They go on their devices. They check email. They check the web more often than the rest of the population because they feel those negative valence states more often than the rest of the population. But if we're honest with ourselves, we all do this, right? We do this all the time. You don't have to be depressed to use these internal triggers to prompt you to action, these negative valence states. Let me ask you, what website or app do we check when we're feeling lonely? Where do we go? We check Facebook. Some people say Tinder, also true. Right? Different kind of loneliness, but same internal trigger. What about when we're feeling unsure? Before we scan our brains to see if we know the answer, what are we doing? We're Googling it. And what about when we're feeling bored? You know, between 2 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you have that big project you don't feel like working on. You check YouTube, you check Reddit, you check stock prices, you see what stupid thing Donald Trump said today. You look at all of these sites and applications and apps to relieve you of this painful internal trigger, this negative valence state of boredom. Right? It's fundamentally boredom. And before we even understand why we're using these products, we're already online. We're already engaging with them. So what does this mean? How do we design products and services that can enhance people's lives, that can help them live better by using this understanding of internal triggers? Well, what it comes down to is if you are building a product that requires a habit, that requires people to come back on their own, you have got to be able to articulate what is that frequently occurring itch. What's that internal trigger that every time the user feels, you are the source of relief? That's what every single one of these companies that we described earlier does. They all attach to some frequently occurring itch, some negative valence state that when the user feels, subconsciously, they're using these products to relieve that pain point. Now, some people say, well, that's so sad, right? That's so pessimistic. Why can't it be about positive emotions, right? Sharing. Isn't sharing a positive emotion? Well, not really. Let me give you a quick illustration of why you have to focus on pain when you build products. I was on a flight recently across the country, and I was sitting in the aisle seat, and right across the aisle was this other guy who was asleep. And the flight attendant comes by, and the flight attendant asks